In this video, we're going to show you how to bleed the brakes on your 2011 to 2015 Ford Explorer. You want to go ahead and open up the hood to your vehicle, and we have a pad here to catch any of the residual brake fluid that we pull it out of the master cylinder here. We don't want to drip all over the place. We also have a little scrap bottle here. It's an old oil container, and we just cut the bottom off of it. That's where we're going to put our brake fluid as we pull it out of the reservoir here. You can use a turkey baster or some sort of hand vacuum pump like this here to go ahead and pull the fluid out. Now you also want to go ahead and pay attention to the top side here. By reading the top, it should tell you what type of brake fluid is needed, whether it's a DOT3, DOT4, or whatever is needed to use on your particular brakes. Go ahead and grab that cap. We're going to twist that and pull it off and set that aside. We want to go ahead and evacuate the fluid that is in here. And then dispose of this here. And you're going to continue this process until you have as much of that fluid out of that reservoir as possible. Once you have that fluid evacuated from there as much as possible, go ahead and grab that container and get that out of the way. Now on our cap here, it actually tells you before removing, use only DOT4 brake fluid from a sealed container. The reason why they tell you that there is that you don't want to have any containers that were open collecting moisture from the air. Moisture in your brake lines can cause an issue, and you don't want to stay away from that. So pay attention, sealed container, so you want to grab a fresh bottle. You want to use your brake fluid here. This does work synthetic DOT3 and 4, so it tells you right on the bottle that this will work. On the side of the reservoir here, there's a max line on the top right here, and then there's a minimum line down below. Well, our fluid is pretty close to that minimum because we just evacuated as much fluid as we could. Go ahead and take a clean funnel, preferably one that's used just for brake fluid. Go ahead and set that up there. And we're going to go ahead and top off this reservoir with clean brake fluid. Now the reason why we're starting with this here is that when we bleed the brake fluid system, we want to make sure that we are flushing the lines out with clean brake fluid and not just pushing dirty fluid through. Now before we start our brake bleeding process here, I did go ahead and overfill this up close to the top here, because as we bleed it out, it's going to take this fluid, it's going to pull it down through and flush it out through the brake lines at each caliper. So I did overfill it at this point. Later on, once this fluid level drops down, we will come back and top this off to our max line. You don't want to overfill this when you're ready for the road. Now starting at the right rear wheel, we're going to go ahead and start our brake bleeding process. Now inside the vehicle, we're going to have someone pump up the brakes. We're going to then have them hold the pedal. We're going to open up the brake bleeder screw here. We'll let that fluid come out. We're going to watch for air bubbles that come out. And then we're going to go ahead and close this here. And we're going to have them activate the e-brake 5 times. At that point there, we want to go ahead and have them release that. We're going to continue that process until there's no more air coming out of the system. Let's go ahead and start that. Go ahead and pump up the brake. Going to put on our hose here to capture the brake fluid. And let's go ahead and open that up. Now when that pedal goes to the floor, we're now going to close this and have them activate that e-brake 5 times. Now at this point here, we can go ahead and have them release that e-brake. And we're going to start the bleeding process again. Go ahead and pump up that pedal. And open this up. With that pedal at the floor, we're going to close that up again. Activate the e-brake 5 times. Now if you notice here, there's no air in the line here, so our system is purged at this point here. The purpose of activating that e-brake is to purge out any little air bubbles behind that cylinder there, and everything looks good. Go ahead and release that e-brake. Release the brake pedal if we already have. And at this point here, we can go ahead and remove our hose here to capture that fluid. Give it a quick spritz with some brake clean or some solvent here. Wipe that. And let's continue over to the driver's side rear wheel. Now we're at the driver's side rear wheel. Go ahead and pump up the brakes. You periodically want to go ahead and check the brake fluid underneath the hood there, because as we're draining fluid out here, well, we want to go ahead and maintain that level underneath the hood as well. We don't want it to run low and introduce air into the system where we have to restart the entire process. Pedals at the floor. We're going to close it. Activate the e-brake 5 times. And as you can see, we have no air in the line there, but we're still going to do it one more time. And release the e-brake. And pump up the pedal. So they're pumping up the brake pedal now to activate that brake. Open. Close. Activate the e-brake. Once again, as you see here, solid fluid in here, no air bubbles, which is absolutely perfect. Go ahead and release the e-brake. With that released, we can now go ahead and remove our hose here. And we're just going to give this a quick spray with our solvent. And let's continue over to the passenger side front wheel. Now we're at the right front wheel, the passenger side front. Now you may see a rubber cap here. This here covers the bleeder screw port. So we're just going to go ahead and pop that off, set that aside, as we'll be reusing that later. Now I'm going to go ahead and have the person pump up the brakes. While they're holding that, we're going to get our hose installed here and open up that line. Then we're going to close that. And we're going to have them activate that e-brake 5 times. Then we'll go ahead and have them release that brake pedal and pump up the brake pedal itself to activate the caliper. While they're holding that pedal, open up that line. As you can see, we have a solid, steady stream of fluid here. The pedal is at the floor now. We're going to go ahead and close that. Activate the e-brake. I'm going to do that one more time for this wheel. Pump up the pedal. And closing. Activate the e-brake. And release the e-brake. We can now go ahead and remove our hose here. Give this a quick spray. Install our little cap. And move over to the fourth and final wheel, the driver's side front. Now on the driver's side front here, once again, if you have that bleeder cap, pop that off. Now if you don't have the bleeder cap, it's not the end of the world. It does help protect the bleeder screw though. Go ahead and pump up the brake. And then close that. So now that we have this closed, I'm going to go ahead and have them operate that e-brake. And release the e-brake. And we're going to do this process again. Pump up the brake pedal. Open. And we have no air in that line. We're going to close that. Have them operate that e-brake 5 times. And we do it one more time. Release the e-brake and compress the caliper with that pedal. And open that up. And close that. And operate the e-brake. And release that e-brake. Remove the hose. Clean that. And install the cap. At this point here, you want to go up top, and we're going to top off the master cylinder fluid. And open up our cap. Check the inside of the cap. Sometimes from that vacuum pressure, we'll suck that little rubber boot down a little bit. Just push that back in. Now in our final fill here, just make sure we fill it to that max line. If you happen to overfill it accidentally, just go ahead and use your little turkey baster or your vacuum tool to go ahead and pull that out to the right level. At that point there, we're at our full mark. Install the cap, and you're all set.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.